How about complexity and emergence?
Yeah, no, that's an interesting one.
I feel like we got to with our first criteria in terms of like fundamental patterns. There's a sense that those patterns are self-similar, but also recursive, or like they're scale invariant, so they're found everywhere. But on those different scales, they're not the same outcome of that pattern. It's kind of like an archetype of the sovereign. Like, oh, it can look like an ancient Egyptian pharaoh, or it can look like a medieval king, and it's sort of this the pattern exists in these different scales but looks different, and I think that's kind of how I think of complexity and emergence.
I totally agree that really rhymes with my understanding, but I wouldn't consider it to be in the domain of metaphysics. I see that as being, it's not any specific special science. Instead, it is something like, I don't know, a philosophy of science, integrative kind of conception. Like the notion of hierarchies, different levels to reality, I think is a conceptual tool that is helpful in understanding how the different fields of science fit together, I suppose. But the like working out of the details of that, I mean, a metaphysician or a metaphysicist could do that work. There's nothing improper about it, but I wouldn't necessarily expect that. I would think that a supposition, again, like on a personal level, when it comes to evaluating a good metaphysical theory, I would make the supposition that the theory is going to have this fractal sort of recursive quality to it. And so I wouldn't expect the theory to have to specify. Okay, yeah, I wouldn't expect the theory to have to specify how complexity, because like you, it just seems like it makes sense in the way of like, when you get these self-same principles like interacting in aggregate, like the manifestations of that interacting in aggregate, you get the emergence of this new behavior, but that is fundamentally in principle the same underlying mechanics, but like the complexification arises out of the interaction of the aggregate somehow.